Okay, so now we're ready to have a look at some of the data. Now make sure that you read the case study thoroughly and come up with your general thoughts and ideas. And I think the purpose is to find out what the company's about, Integrated Hospital Network, find out any potential current and future problems, and provide your best illustrated solutions to it. Now, as you provide solutions or recommendations, it might be a good idea to support some of those findings by using data. So that's called evidence-based decision making or evidence-based research. So if you open up the Excel file that we have, click on the master tab, you'll see all your main data is here. Now, a few things to understand. The data that you see in front of you represents every employee the hospital's had since the beginning. But much of the data for current employees, like salary and so on, is as of 2011, right? So we're using 2011. The recruitment data goes a little bit further ahead to about February, March of 2012. But for example, when you see a salary here, that's actually for that 1 year. When you see a current performance rating, that is for the current year, okay? So let's have a look. You do remember how to use pivot tables, and I think that's the best tool at this point. If you forgot or you need a refresher, have a look at my pivot tutorial videos. But let's get started. Click on any one cell, click the Insert tab, click Pivot Table, and OK. So now this environment should look a little bit familiar. Now what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the columns here, and we're going to ask ourselves questions. And here's where I would start. I would start off by presenting some basic information about the organization. Certain dimensions about what the company is. For example, how many staff do we have? So take staff name, put it in values, and you'll see we have 366 staff, right? Now, you would report this maybe in your preamble paragraphs at the beginning, maybe then have the entire table in an appendix so the reader might want to dig deeper. So let's break this apart. Let's do it by location in rows, and it tells me by location, these are the number of people we have. Now, if you right-click on one of these numbers and go to show values as, you can actually do a quick percentage. Now you could always do it on the side yourself, but pivots can do it for you. So for example, percent of grand total, and it'll give you a percentage here. Out of 100%, what percent of our staff are at each location? Okay, so I'll just right click, go back to show values, and no calculation. Now let's take location out of there, and we're gonna put, let's say, gender, right? So we wanna see gender. Maybe do this for equity purposes, so on. Let's put gender in columns and put location in rows. So now you got gender by location to see maybe we need to hire more females in particular area or not. And you could do that same thing with the employment equity groups. So let's take some of this data out, and I want to show you something else. Let's say you find or you feel that we have some sort of an age or an HR planning situation related to age, that your workforce is aging too quickly. So let's take age and put it in rows, and you'll see that there's different ages represented and the number of people at each age segment. You could also use date of birth if you're doing a different type of analysis. But this is too many ages to look at, so I'm going to right click on one of the age numbers, go to group, and I'm going to group it by maybe twos, right? And maybe I'm going to get rid of some of these decimal places over here. Let's see if that helps. And click OK. So I'm looking at people who are over the age of 50, which is this many, which if you look down here, it says 89 out of 366 people. And you can easily do some sort of an analysis to see who's aging very quickly. Is it medical staff? Is it pharmacists? Is it people that we can replace easily? Do we need some sort of a development structure? HR planning issues, right? And I'll show you another way to do that later on as well. But let's take age out of here. And I forgot to tell you, one of the very first things you really should do is filter out the people that are terminated, right? So take a look. 366 people represents everybody we've ever had. But if you take the field called term, this one here, and put it in filters, you can now see that no means these people are not terminated. Yes means they are terminated. So let's put N, click OK, and you'll see that there are only 253 active employees currently. That doesn't mean that's the only number of people we need, because there's a whole lot of vacancies in the vacancy tab. This is the total complement of staff that we need. So these people plus the 253 that we see over here. Now let's do something interesting. Out of the people that are terminated, so let's do yes, terminated. Why did they terminate? So we have a reason for termination over here, we're going to put it in rows. And if you want to know what each of these codes means, make sure you go back to the master table and have a look. There's a set of reason codes here. So let's go back. And if you find that a whole lot of people are terminated because they have job dissatisfaction, or they just quit, or they had their boss was an issue, then you might want to look into that area and actually do this by department or by location or even by who they report to. And you'll see some sort of trends or patterns happening there. So the other thing I want to show you is if you go back to your master, click anywhere, click insert, and instead of pivot table, we're going to go up here to pivot chart. So click on the button, click OK, and you'll get a pretty similar environment, except whatever data you drop down here will show up in the form of a graph. So I'm just going to make this space a little bit bigger, right? And let's see, if I put staff name and values, it's going to show me the total staff. But we want to break this down by gender, so let's put gender in axis, and it'll tell me so many females, so many males. And you can pivot that as well. You can put it up here, right? And let's do this by department. So we'll put location in axis, and it breaks down each gender by each location. And the cool thing is you can actually pivot this, right? You can actually click up here and say, I only want to look at male employees. And that pivots it down that way for you. And then maybe put them all back. There we go. Now, if you're doing something like age, you might want to put date of birth. So let's get rid of these fields. Take date of birth, put it here, and right click on a date of birth. Let's group it, and let's group it not by months but by years, and it shows you based on the year of birth what's the intake of employees. And you'll see that there's a massive push of people born in the 80s over here. Now, are they male, are they female? What's happening? Do you want to see some sort of a trend? So we'll put gender in columns, and the reds are males, the blues are females, and you see that we have major recruitment push over here that's attracting males and not so many females. But these are all my baby boomers, right? 1964 or before are my baby boomers, and that's who we're concerned about. Now let's take a peek and see who they are. If you double click on any one of these bars, choose, let's say, job title over here, it'll actually tell you all the different job titles for each year, right? So I'm just going to delete the graph. It doesn't look good. But take a look over here. It tells you. These are like chief of surgery. He's the oldest guy working for us, right? Orderlies. There's a whole bunch of, medical staff over here. But the interesting thing, look at this. Who did we hire in the 80s? When the hospital was expanding quickly, they're mostly residents. Look at this. Wow. Young guys, young people, young women who are actually residents. And that might be an opportunity, might be a cause for concern, right? So have a look, try these different things, and do as much analysis as you can. Like I said, take some of the basic dimensions about the organization, drop them into an appendix, and then dig deep and do as much analysis as you can. So me personally, I would put as many tables as I could into appendices, and then pick and choose what I'd like to discuss in the main document, right? But don't forget, always put term in filters, and always make sure you choose only N, which is the non-terminated people. Else you're going to include everybody in your analysis, right? Have fun with it, and make sure you look at my pivot tutorials.